Good evening, people. Welcome to Auld Heids special. This one's going to cover a couple of wee things that me and Mike have been talking about over the past couple of years that also crystallised during the meeting we had the other day, but I'll let him tell you all about that. Enjoy.
We've called this the yes economy, Dave. Background to it is, like me, you call me granddad. If you live long enough, you see why things change, right? So my perspective on where we are now, particularly with the virus and the disruption it's causing, is there's a lot of things that were done in the past in Scotland, like making things, manufacturing things, industrial processes, that were wiped out. And the effect of that is we now have a kind of consumerist service economy. And it's going to be the ruination of us unless we can find ways back. Now, you and I have had discussions about a number of things. Maybe the first one that people will recognise is we thought, let's see if we can come up with a song. And we did. And I think it's gone down fairly well. On Thursday at Hoop, I used a particular phrase, which is really why we decided to do this special. I said there was a phrase called 2020 vision. Everyone will recognise that as a common theme, a common phrase. But what I was talking about was 2020 reality. And the fact that since we did the song, it also happened at Hoop. It happened yesterday. People participate or don't participate. I've had a few people come up to me since we did the song saying, why didn't you invite me? Why didn't you tell me you were going to do that? I've had that for other reasons as well. You were at the BBC event yesterday, and people who had said that they would turn up didn't turn up. So what we decided to do was to start revealing one of the ideas that we've been working on. Just one of them. There's a number of them, but this is one I hope will resonate with people, and they can think whether they want to turn up or not turn up. I want to introduce you to a young man I met at Hoop before the event really took off. It's called Thomas. Thomas was standing with his shield, and what I want you to do is look at his eyes in that photograph, and you'll see there's a shade of doubt in that. What's his future? How will I grow up in an independent Scotland?
As we were standing at Hoop the other day, one person that attended was standing on the far side of the road with a sign and letting people in cars see it as he goes past. And it's very, very pertinent to what we're going to be discussing.
That sign, Dave, reveals what a lot of us talk about is that we're not asking for independence. We're not wanting independence just for ourselves. It's for our children and our grandchildren. There's a big question comes up. We all talk about it, but do we actually do anything about it?
I'm going to introduce you to Thomas. Thomas and I met earlier, didn't we, Thomas? Hi. I've got a photograph of you I'm going to post on Facebook. Are you happy?
You happy?
You listening to music? Yeah. Thank you, Thomas. One day, many years from now, you'll be able to watch where you were on the day that we all decided we were going on a walk, and we were going to keep walking, and we were going to declare your country for you free.
Shout freedom.
You want to shout freedom? Thank you, Thomas. Yay!
I realised, Dave, when I was making those comments to Thomas, was I prepared to do something that would actually not be a vague comment, actually do something. And that really is what we're going to try and reveal. It's one idea you and I have been talking about. Scotland is currently looking at 15,000 children who don't have a home. With the current economic crisis, that is just going to get worse. Dave, what I want to do is use an extract from the National last week. If you actually read the paper, I read it online, you wouldn't find it in the top 20 most popular articles. In fact, if you actually had to find it, you had to scroll down quite a bit. And yet, this is 2020 reality. There are currently, and it's going up, 15,000 children in Scotland who don't have a home. The current economic crisis suggests to me that's going to get worse. The Scottish Government have put in place legislation which restricts the right of landlords to evict people. But that's going to run out at some stage. People are not getting their jobs back. People are going to find it harder and harder. So that 15,000 isn't going to decrease no matter what anyone does. It's going to increase. This is an extract, Dave, from a paper that the Scottish Government did, which gives the reasons for homelessness. Sometimes it's a dispute in a household. Sometimes it's other factors. I'd rather leave that for people to see, because one of the things that comes out of that is how it affects the children in the household. A phrase you'll hear quite often, I think it's maybe arisen more in the last 2 years than any other time, is an economy that addresses well-being. That's a graph of where the UK stand in respect of children's well-being. We're not at the top, we're at the bottom. And that's one of the things that our idea is going to try and address. This is another graph which I've looked at. Again, you'll see it's the percentage of children struggling with well-being. But the main point is the comments at the bottom. Even before the pandemic, which we know has taken a huge toll on our children's well-being, many felt that their life didn't have a sense of purpose. We believe it is not only a fear of failure, but also rising child poverty levels that could be partly to blame. When I'm talking to Thomas and I'm saying years from now he can look back and watch his country become free, become independent, what those graphs are showing is that not just children of Thomas's age, but people at school just now, people at university are looking at what's going on with COVID, with the change in employment, and saying, do I have a future? And that's what we've got to deal with, Dave. Now, the Scottish Government have a plan. Put briefly, that plan is over a 5-year period. It was started, I think, a year ago. I could be wrong in that. And they've allocated £50 million to it. And the Scottish Government are going to try and work in liaison with local authorities to try and improve the situation. But they've got 15,000 children at the moment to try and improve, and more coming, who are going to be homeless. The hardest thing any parent could ever have to do is to tell his child the circumstances, the consequences of them losing their job. And there's going to be a lot of parents facing that difficulty, Dave. Now, we've come up with an idea, just one of the ideas we have, and I'm going to pass this over to you because you've got the knowledge and the experience to tell people what the idea is. So over to you, my friend.
Well, basically, up to 10, 12 years ago, I had my own civil engineering company. We used to build houses. And then Gordon Brown let the banks go free rein, and there was a great big crash, and companies went bust all over the place, and we were subcontracted to a big company that went. But at that time, we were building 157 foundations in Portree and Skye for a new housing estate there, and basically, me and Mike spoke about a year ago about what could we actually do now as if we were living in a better country that could be effective. And I said, well, as my trade's in building and construction, but the construction industry's dead at the moment. And we sort of got our heads together and cooked up this idea that what if we got yesers all across the construction and industry who are not working at the moment due to the things that are happening, to volunteer their time for a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, and build a house or actually a block of houses that could be used for homeless people, and they would always be known as the house that Yes built. Volunteers, you see it on the TV, they've got these special things that go on all the time, but they get all these specialists in and they do this. The thing is, we've got the people, we've got the ground workers, we've got the chippies, we've got the brickies, we've got everything that we could need to be able to do something like that, except a wee bit of land.
That's right. Can I chuck in, Dave? This is where it gets interesting when we get into this discussion. Number one, land. You'll notice from what I said earlier on that the Scottish Government are working with local authorities. So first question, is there a local authority anywhere in Scotland that has some land that we could obtain so that we could build on? Number two, the first house that Yes built, whatever it is, Dave, will have a value. And this takes me on to a lot of people misunderstand what's involved in the National Investment Bank that's been started. But they may recognise a phrase that comes out of that, which is called match funding. So if we have to raise money to do this, can we go back to the Scottish Government and say, we've raised X and all the volunteers we need. Would you match fund what we're trying to do here as the Yes House? And it also leads to younger people who who are not looking forward to a future, Dave, and you know this.
Yep.
It again comes back to age. I have experience, you have experience. We can pass that experience on.
Yep.
So maybe there's a young lad who wants to become a brickie, and we've got brickies, and we can teach.
Yep.
We can form our own apprenticeship scheme. And it doesn't stop there. As you know, a house has a value. It also has an income from rent. And in this case, what we're talking about is not a company being set up, but a social enterprise. It's much like building societies started nearly 200 years ago. You built a house for the first people and you kept moving on. We can use the first house as value, obtain a mortgage based on the rent being paid, and move on to another house. This thing is expandable, Dave. And it's back to what an economy should be. It's building things.
Yeah.
Back to you, my friend.
Yeah, well, basically, that's the idea. If we could get the volunteers together to build the first one, and obviously there are homeless charities, there are housing associations, there are all sorts of things where this could be something interesting for them. We're not interested in building it to say, oh, we've got a monument to how great we are, or we're saying at the end of the day, we're looking to actually do something useful for real people who are in trouble, and to show what people can do for their fellow people, like before we're independent, and say, well, okay, Can you imagine what that would be like if everybody was doing it afterwards? And it's not something that would cost an extreme amount of money if you sit and think about it, because there is so much on the basically. As Mike says, you can get match funding if your labour is free on your first build, then your costs are going to be negligible on materials compared to the value that's actually going to be in your property afterwards. And it's one of the cheapest times ever to borrow money.
Yeah.
So
Dave, you've heard me on the other programme saying that I went from project fear to hope over fear to action over hope.
yes,
And that basically is where you and I talk. I have other things, you have other things that we're both working on at the moment. But the point of this special to Auld Heids is to say, people, don't tell us that we didn't tell you that we're working on something, because we are. That's the basis of it, is how to start building an economy built by the Yes movement for the whole of Scotland, not just for us, for people that need the help. Over to you, Dave.
and basically this Yes economy would be, the model of it would be the house that Yes built. The idea would be to possibly be able to build an accommodation that could do up to probably six families or something similar on the smaller side, because a lot of homeless people are on their own, or you're not getting many people that have got lots of kids that are not being housed instantly. But we're looking at being able to build for people that fall through that net.
Most stories you see in the paper, Dave, kind of disappear after a while. We focus on them for a while, whatever. But my final comment on this would be to ask people to remember a lady and a child. The lady's name was Mercy Baguma.
Yeah.
We've got to change that, folks.
Yeah.
Sir Alba.
Talk to you later, guys. Remember, the house that Yes built, you've been invited to become a part of it. Don't come to us later and say, oh, we wish you told us. We've told you. We need you to all get on board. Have a good one. Cheers.